Assalamualaikum and hi. My name is Nurul Husna binti Muhammad Zakwan. So today, me and my group, we are going to present on our chosen poet named Warsan Shire. So me, Nurul Husna, my group mates Siti Nurdiana Farah Anis, and also Siti Nurfatiha. So Warsan Shire is a Somali-British writer and also poet. She was born in 1988 in Nairobi, Kenya, but then she was raised in London. This is because her parents fled the Civil War and they eventually settled down in London. So growing up in a Somali household in London, she was exposed to both her Somali heritage and also the British culture, which is the most significant influence in her writing. So her educational background. So Shire attended Brunei University in London, where she studied creative writing and graduated with a Bachelor of Arts degree in 2010. And she began to gain her recognition for her poetry at university when she won the Brunei University African Poetry Prize in 2013.
Going to move on to the central issues of the poem. The first one is migration. No one leaves home unless home is the mouth of a shark. So in this part, Warsan Shire said that migration is not a choice, but as a last resort. In her poem, she makes it clear that people flee only when staying is more dangerous than leaving. So right here, her words remind us that behind every refugee statistic, there is a person with a story of survival. The next issue is identity struggle. I tore up and ate my own passport in an airport hotel and bloated with language I can't afford to forget. So this illustrates the struggle of being caught between two cultures. Immigrants often feel like outsiders in their new countries, but at the same time they are distant from their homeland. So this creates a deep sense of not belonging anywhere. So Shire's poetry actually expresses this feeling of being in between. The next issue is trauma and violence. A refugee camp behind each year, a body littered with ugly things. Shire does not just talk about migration actually, she also shows the pain that comes with it. So many refugees and immigrants have experienced war, violence and loss. So women in particular face the threat of abuse and exploitation. So in this poem Ugly, she uses the human body as a symbol of trauma, showing how deeply violence leaves its mark. And the last issue, of course, a must-have issue, is self-love. So despite the pain and struggle in this poem, you are terrifying and strange and beautiful, something not everyone knows how to love. So these are the lines from For Women Who Are Difficult to Love. That is one of the most famous Shire's poem. Shire poetry also speak about resilience and self-love. So in For Women Who Are Difficult to Love, she reminds us that being different or misunderstood does not mean we are unworthy. Her words encourage people, especially women, to embrace their strength, beauty and uniqueness.
Assalamualaikum and good morning, sir. I'm Siti Nurfatiha binti Jamdali. Will talk about notable works by Warsan Shire. So Warsan Shire is an incredible poet whose work really hits you in the heart. She's known for writing about tough experience like displacement, survival and resilience. And first, her chapbook Teaching My Mother How to Give Birth put her name on the map, because it explored raw personal themes like war, love and womanhood. Then in 2002, she released her first full-length poetry collections, which is called Bless the Daughter Raised by a Voice in Her Head, which is it dived more deeper into the feelings of survival and identity. And lastly, one of her most famous poems, which is Home. And you probably heard its powerful line, no one leaves home unless home is the mouth of a shark. It's a heartbreaking reminder of what forces people to leave everything behind. So she talks more about the migration and how people actually leave their home just to survive in another country. How the pain, how the really tough action to do. So next we will cover more about what makes her writing significant. So now let's continue about what makes her writing significant. So Shire's work didn't just stay on the page. Her poetry reached millions when Beyonce featured her works in Lemonade album back in 2016. That album blended music with Shire's spoken word so well. It is more than just a song. It became an experience. and through that collaboration, many people can actually get attracted to read a poem. People can feel the depth of her words. So basically, what's make her writing so special? Because it doesn't just about narrative. It's her emotional honesty. She doesn't just talk about issues. She makes you feel them. She paints vivid pictures through her words of migrations and loss that are raw and unforgettable. Her poetry isn't just for one group of people. It's universal. People can relate to it. Even people who did never migrate actually can understand and feel the pain of living everything just so we can survive. So basically, her words cross cultures and borders because it is full of truthness and pain, hope and survival that so many people can relate to. At the end of the day, Warsan Shire's poetry reminds us that behind every refugee statistic or headlines, there's a human story, one that deserves to be heard, and that's the power of her voice. Basically, everyone have stories to tell too, and we should always understand how and why these people actually chose to migrate, and we should never downgrading them because they are basically fighting their own inner battle that we never know.
Hi, my name is Farah Anis binti Ahmad Tabrani, and I'm going to explain about Warsan Shire notable achievement. Alright, now let's look one by one Warsan Shire achievement. In 2013, Shire was awarded Brunel University Inaugural African Poetry Prize, recognizing poets who have yet to publish full-length poetry collection. She was selected from a short list of 6 candidates out of total 655 entries. In the same year, she was chosen as the first young poet laureate for London, selected from a short list of 6. This honour is part of the London Legacy Development Corporation SPOKE program, which promotes art and culture in Queen Elizabeth Olympic Park and the surrounding area. In 2014, Shire was appointed as Poet in Residence in Queensland, Australia, working with Aboriginal Centre for the Performing Arts over a 6-week period. In 2018, Warsan Shire has collaborated with Beyonce through Lemonade. In 2022, Warsan Shire collection, Bless the Daughter Raised by a Voice in Her Head, was shortlisted for the 2022 Felix Dennis Prize for Best First Collection. And in 2023, in Dylan Thomas Prize, the same collection, Bless the Daughter Raised by a Voice in Her Head, has made it appear on the long list for the 2023 Griffin Poetry Prize. For your information, Warsan Shire poetry has attained a global audience through translation into various languages, including Italian, Spanish, Portuguese, Danish, and also Estonian.
Okay, next we are going to look into the poem interpretation. So the first poem we are going to look at is The Midnight in the Foreign Food Aisle. So dear uncle, is everything you love foreign, or are you foreign to everything you love? We are all animals, and the body wants what it wants. I know. The blonde said, come in, take off your coat, and what do you want to drink?
Love is not haram, but after years of fucking woman who cannot pronounce your name, you find yourself in the foreign food aisle, beside the turmeric and the saffron, pressing your face into the ground, praying in a language you haven't used in years.
Okay, next we are going to look into the meaning of the poem, line by line. So the first and the second line. Dear uncle, is everything you love foreign, or are you foreign to everything you love? So here the speaker questioned her dear uncle whether he loved the things that are outside his culture, or he feels alienated from the things that he loves. The next line, we are all animals and the body wants what it wants. I know. So here the speaker acknowledged that regardless of the culture, we humans have that instinctual and natural desire that can actually transcend the cultural and societal boundaries. And the next line, the blonde said, come in, take off your coat, and what do you want to drink? So the blonde woman here represents the westernized ideal of love, and her invitation is actually contrasts with the uncle's background, which highlight the tension between his desire and also his roots. 6 to 7. Love is not haram, but after years of women who cannot pronounce your name, the love itself is not haram, it's not forbidden, but then the uncle's relationship with the woman is something outside his culture, and the mispronunciation of his name here symbolized as a loss of cultural identity. And the next line, you find yourself in the foreign food aisle beside the turmeric and the saffron. So the foreign food aisle here represent his longing for home, and also the turmeric and saffron symbolize his heritage and also identity. And the last two lines, pressing your face into the ground, praying in a language you haven't used in years. So it represents the act of sujud that shows the reconnection with his face and also his cultural roots. And praying in using the language he haven't used in years suggests that he has returned to the identity that he once neglected. Okay, next we are going to look into the literary devices. The first one is repetition, the repetition of the word foreign in the first and the second line. Next is metaphor, where the speaker compares human to the animals. And the third one is auditory imagery, where we can literally hear that the woman said, "Come in, take off your coat, and what do you want to drink?" Okay, the next one is juxtaposition, where it shows the contrast between the concept of love and also the prohibited action. And the next one is symbolism, turmeric and saffron that symbolize the uncle's heritage and identity. And the last one is alliteration, the repetition of the sound pressing your face into the ground, praying. Moving on to the next presenter.
Now, let's move on and discuss the important three key themes in Midnight in Foreign Isle poem. The first theme is identity and belonging. Dear uncle, is everything you love foreign, or are you foreign to everything you love? Shire begins the poem by addressing her uncle, highlighting his struggle with identity and belonging. The question reflects the internal conflict of loving things that feel foreign and feeling foreign to the thing once loved. This duality showcases the complex emotions immigrants face in trying to find their place in a new world while staying connected to their roots. The second theme is nostalgia and longing. You find yourself in the foreign food aisle besides the turmeric and the saffron, pressing your face into the ground, praying in a language you haven't used in years. In this vivid scene, the uncle seeks solace among familiar spices, symbolizing a deep yearning for his homeland. The act of praying in a long, unused native language emphasizes the profound connection between food, memory, and cultural identity. It illustrates how immigrants often turn to sensory experiences to reconnect with their past. Last but not least is alienation, or feeling of being an outsider. After years of fucking woman who cannot pronounce your name, this line starkly portrays the uncle's sense of alienation, even in intimate relationship. The inability of partners to pronounce his name signifies a broader societal disconnect and lack of understanding. It underscores the loneliness and isolation that can persist despite physical proximity to others.
Okay, now let's continue with the second poem, which is Souvenir by Warsan, Shire. So the first part will be read by me, and the second part will be continued by Farah Anis. Okay, first. I think I brought the war with me. On my skin, a shroud circling my skull. Matter under my nails. It sits at my feet while I watch TV. I hear its damp breath in the background
of every phone call. I feel it sleeping between us in the bed. It ladder my back in the shower. It presses itself against me at the bathroom sink. At night, it passes me the peace. It holds my hand. I never meet its kiss.
Now let's discover the poem line by line. So the meaning of line 1 and 2, I think I brought the war with me on my skin, a shroud. So basically the speaker talks about the past experience that felt physical and has left a permanent mark where the trauma keeps wrapped the speaker's thought. Like no matter where they go, they can still remember the pain. And line 3 and 4, circling my skull, matter under my nails. It sits at my feet while I watch TV. So it acknowledged that even in the moments of relaxations, the presence of pain and distress lingering, symbolizing that the remnants of the pain still traumatize the speaker, and the speaker literally carries all the trauma with them. And line 4 and 5, I hear its damp breath in the background of every phone call. I feel it sleeping. So this line speak about the fact that no matter what the speaker is doing, even in conversations with others, the presence of grief and emotional distress is always there. It reflects her to not be fully engaged in life or relationships without the feeling of weight of their emotional burden. Now let's continue with the line 6 and 7. Between us in the bed, it lathers my back in the shower. So this means trauma or depression has created emotional distance between the speaker and their loved ones. It shows that the barrier where people with past trauma could not get rid of, because they simply the stress keep over and over come to them, and basically even when they are in a better place now, it is actively touching the speaker all over again. And next, line 8 and 6. It presses itself against me at the bathroom sink. At night, it passes me the pills. So the presence presses itself against the speaker suggests that overwhelming pressure, especially even the private. The speaker cannot escape the pain, the feeling still lurking and almost suffocating. It feels so uncomfortable to live with. And the last line will be line 10 and 11. It holds my hand. I never meet its gaze. So the feeling, however, becomes a dark companion that is both terrifying and familiar. The speaker avoids facing their pain directly because possibly it is too much and overwhelming, or basically they have grown accustomed to that weight burden, that emotional burden keep growing, and they keep getting comfortable with the pain. So they finally realize that they need to grow and live with it. So that's all the meaning of the poem. Now let's continue with the line 6 and 7. Between us in the bed, it lathers my back in the shower. So this means trauma or depression has created emotional distance between the speaker and their loved ones. It shows that the barrier where people with past trauma could not get rid of, because they simply the stress keep over and over come to them, and basically even when they are in a better place now, it is actively touching the speaker all over again. And next, line 8 and 6. It presses itself against me at the bathroom sink. At night, it passes me the pills. So the presence presses itself against the speaker suggests that overwhelming pressure, especially even the private. The speaker cannot escape the pain, the feeling still lurking and almost suffocating. It feels so uncomfortable to live with. And the last line will be line 10 and 11. It holds my hand. I never meet its gaze. So the feeling, however, becomes a dark companion that is both terrifying and familiar. The speaker avoids facing their pain directly because possibly it is too much and overwhelming, or basically they have grown accustomed to that weight burden, that emotional burden keep growing, and they keep getting comfortable with the pain. So they finally realize that they need to grow and live with it. So that's all the meaning of the poem.
Okay, now let's move to the literary devices. Number 1, imagery. So the text employ vivid imagery to create sensory experiences such as a shroud circling my skull and matter under my nails, which evoke visual and tactile sensation. Number 2, personification. So the wall is personified as a sentient being that interacts with the speaker, such as when it sits at my feet, lather my back, and presses itself against me, and also passes me the pills. So this suggests that the speaker is grappling with the psychological impacts of war as if it were a living entity. Number 3 is metaphor. So the war is metaphorically represented as something that can be carried physically. For example, I brought the war with me on my skin, suggesting that the trauma of war is embedded in the speaker's identity and physical presence.
Okay, now let's talk about the last one, which is the themes. So for the theme of the souvenir poem, so first, the inescapability of trauma. So in this poem, Shire shows that trauma isn't something you can just get over it. It sticks with you, influencing how you think, feel, and see the world. It's more than just emotional pain, but it is a physical and spiritual weight that follows you everywhere. Even in the moment that are supposed to be happy and peaceful, you can still feel that, oh, it's so much pain, because you cannot be present on that time. So next theme be about the emotional isolation and disconnections. So in this poem, it talk about Shire. She talk about how trauma can make you feel distant from others, even the people close to you. Even when you love that people and that people love you, it creates an invisible wall, making real connections feel impossible. It's that feeling of loneliness, even when you're not alone, but you still can feel how emotional disconnection. So this shows how deeply past pain can affect present relationships. And lastly would be about the resignations of acceptance and suffering. Instead of fighting the trauma, Shire learns to live with it. It's not about giving up, but realizing that the pain is part of their life now. It's about finding a way to coexist with that emotional burden. So, through these themes, we can see that Shire shows us the raw, honest impact of trauma on a person's life. Her poetry is a powerful reminder of the strength it takes to carry pain and keep going. So, we can see that not all people actually throw away all the pain, but simply because they try to live with it. So, that's why we should never judge everyone. So, and we need to always be kind with people, because we don't know they are actually having a post-trauma that they are fighting every day just to feel sane and alive. So that's all from me. Thank you.
Alright, now let's discuss the issue that we can find from the poem. Number 1, post-traumatic stress and trauma. So the main issue of the poem is the psychological impact of war. The speaker is constantly reminded of the experiences which affect their daily life. Number 2, loss of identity and self. The speaker struggles to separate their experiences from their sense of self, leading to fractured sense of identity. Number 3, emotional burden and coping mechanism. From the poem, we understand that the war holds the speaker's hand, and it implying a complex relationship where the trauma is both a source of pain and a constant companion.